I hope you're all keeping. Thank you for making the first episode of Hocus such a success. That means a lot to me and Sarah. And that's the first thing I'll say. Second thing I'll say is that I'm feeling really positive today. I'm feeling really positive about things. It's like there's a sense, yeah, I know we're up against it, but there's a sense of change. And there's been, you know, how we talk about like it's the rippling on the surface of the waters that actually tells you what's going on below. I've often used that sort of Jungian metaphor. I watched a video of Jimmy Kimmel that someone had suggested to me, and it was like Jimmy Kimmel had written a tiny song about the new variant, the new ping pong variant, and he tries to do a Fred Schneider thing, you know, from like the B-52s. You see a faded sign at the side of the road. It says 15 miles to the Love Shack. You know, funny stuff. I got me a car. It's as big as a whale, and it's about to set sail. What's the other one? Waiting for the bus number 99. Going to the store for hot dogs and wine. He was trying to do Fred Schneider from the B-52s, but I love the B-52s, brilliant band. But it was unbelievable. It was the rippling on the surface to show you that they're falling apart behind the scenes. Firstly, it was such propaganda that, you know, even said the comments were all universally, and it was on their own their own video. It wasn't like a video on another channel. It was on the Tonight Show video, and it was universally slagging the thing off and attacking it. And all the comments were like, "Gosh, there's people in North Korea laughing at this propaganda. It's so obvious," and they can't let you can actually see that there was something. It was, you know what it was like. It was like that song by Bruce Springsteen, "Glory Days." The establishment were singing it, you know. I remember when, I knew a friend who was a a mask seller back in high school. He used to terrify all the people with COVID, made you feel like a granny killer. Then one day I was coming out. He was coming into an old bar. We sat right down and talked about it. But all weekend they thought glory days. Well, that's what it was like. The globalists, their glory days of COVID has passed them by, and the lockdowns and all the restrictions and all that and the terror they imposed upon people, it's passed them by. And that performance, ventriloquist dummy performance by Jimmy Kimmel was exactly that. We have lost control. We have lost control of the people. Make the entertainers. Make the entertainers. Bring back COVID. Bring back COVID. That's what it felt like. It felt like that. It felt like that. And make them afraid. Bring back COVID. Do funny song about new thing. New variant. Yeah, that's what it was like. And you could actually see his puppet masters with a gun to his head when you could see a look on his face. He's worth $80 million, but he ain't worth shit. He's still a bottle washer like the rest of us, to the secret unknowns. It was made, and I'm seeing other things like, you know, by the way, you on the comments, you said, I thought you were against protesting. No, what happened in Ballymun wasn't, we're not going to take it, Leo. You know, we're not going to fake it, Simon. It wasn't Leo, give us a little bit of freedom there, will ya? You know, look at me tap on me head. You know, all in all, you're just another prick in the doll. Oh, Jesus, that'll show them. Or, you know, more like in some wagon with a guitar. And we will fight for the people. You know, Jesus, there's nothing more horrible than that. There's nothing more horrible than, you know, along with Bango Wanker and Fire Spinning Bitch, is protest song twat. Oh, my fucking Lord. And the people will remember and we will rise up. This kind of fucking crap, you know. That's all used as social safety valves. I don't have to do anything because some alcoholic with his liver just about to evaporate is singing about what I want to hear, and that's shite. And it's ironic, you know. It's almost like their own things have come back to bite them. You know, standing outside the hotel going, "Get them out, get them out, get them out," is very different than walking down the street with a placard going, "Ah, Leo, give us a bit of our freedom, will you?" Big difference. Big. It's confrontation. It's not. It's not. It's not protesting. It's confrontation, and that's the difference, motherfucker. Now, secondly, what was I going to say next? There's always some wanker who wrecks your train of thought, and not just bango man, bongo wanker. Yeah. We're not going to take it, Simon. Oh, for fuck's sake, I'll never forget that as long as I live. I could just see them, you know, I could just see them trembling in their boots when they saw that thing. But that joke, right up there with the one with the Santa hat on her head and at the Freemasonic building. I'm really scared of the, you know, it's a very serious thing. Look at me, Santa hat, you know, we're losing our free speech, but look at Santa hat, look. That's protesting. What you saw in Ballymun was confrontation. It's fucking different. It's brought about by genuine anger. And they know exactly who the enemy is. It's not necessarily the people in that building, but the ones putting them there. Now, and it was beautiful to see all black people and all the Asian people who were in the Ballymun crowd, which, you know, this is a horror show for the globalists and their toe rags. Horror show, because they wanted a pure white scanger crowd, and what they got was mixed race crowd of lots of black kids as well who were from the neighborhood. That's why I'm actually really proud of Ballymun this morning. It was like that. It wasn't a far right. It's the working class have figured it out, and the working class have come together. And you all going, you're far right, far right, far right. You've all been found out. You've all been found out. They know what you're up against. They know when you say far right, they know you mean working class. And there was even comments that when anyone was from Ballymun said it's nothing about race. It's got to do with you can't load people into your neighbourhood who calling her a scanger and making all these things about she's a dolly hood rat and all this kind of thing. Oh, they show it's really about hatred of the working class. Every single so-called anti-fascist activist, pro, anti whatever they want to call themselves, are driven by nothing else other than an extreme hatred of the working class. This is the hatred of the working class they carried all their lives in their little posh little up neighbourhoods, looking over the walls. Oh, get these whole communists out of here! Communists! And now they're allowed to actually legally do it, and somehow false morally take out their absolute poisonous hatred of the working class by calling them far right. And yep, they've been found out. You're not going to win this. This is where, and also you've lost also your traditional base of the unions. You see, protest in this country was usually brought about by this despicable pieces of shit in the unions and the Labour Party. And I can remember, like, when the Labour Party was in power, they had a thing called "Give Labour the Red Card," and you had all these like people in designer fashions on Dame Street holding up the red card, like they send them off like in soccer. They were all fucking government unions and trade union types who were like want to make sure they got their entitlements and their massive salaries for doing like 10% what someone in the private sector does. Oh, you've all been found out too as well. You middle class unions pretend. It took a long time. It started with me when Machine Gun David Begg, the head of one of the biggest unions in Ireland, who was also on the board of directors of the central bank, suggested that the army be brought in to actually shoot people who there was a run on the banks. Now, he was only worried about the run on the banks because there'd be no money for my members. But he didn't give a fuck about the rest of the Irish people, only the trade unions. He was literally suggesting that armed machine gun troops were at the banks in case there was a run on the banks. But not because he worried about the financial state of the country. It's because, well, we in the unions, we're entitled to our entitlements, this kind of thing. They should have found that out there 20 years ago, but now they're finding it out now. The unions in Ireland, the trade unions, are a upper middle class racket, basically. A racket. That's basically all it is. Run for to keep the civil service pampered, and the deal is that the civil servants will act like the Orwellian outer party and protect the inner party of the government and the higher bureaucracies and the NGOs and all this stuff. Oh, you've all been found out. You've all been found out. The days when you could run into a neighbourhood where there's a problem and say, "Oh, I'm from the Workers' Party and I'm here to it's gone." The days when I'm from Sinn Féin and I have this. I want to. We need better. I saw this fucking thing. It was hilarious. People in Ballymun shouldn't be out protesting the arrival of hundreds of unvetted Arabic. Here's another one. The so-called Ukrainian refugees are almost exclusively, as we know in Ireland and the UK and other countries, North African and Arabic males with the latest iPhones and designer fashions. Now, that's the main reason we all have a problem. No other reason from Ukraine. And what did we envision? We envisioned mothers with their children. And everyone in the country, me and everyone else, is absolutely not help the people out. But no, what we got was military-aged men from North Africa and the Middle East. What? What part of Ukraine are they from? What? That's what we got instead. The dishonesty of that is what's the problem. Not the fact that they're race or anything like that, or where they're from. It is because we were told we were getting Ukrainian women and children that were desperately fleeing a war. And instead what we got was a fucking half of fucking a Bollywood fucking movie and half of the cast from Lawrence of Arabia with the latest iPhones and the latest designer jeans. So it was a lie. It was a lie. It was a deception. But gaslight a go-go. I just thought about something. How they stitch it all together, right? You could walk up to them and say to them, I have a problem with the quote-unquote Ukrainian refugees in the DP Centre. Why? Well, none of them are Ukrainian. Well, how do you know, you racist? They speak Urdu or Arabic. They don't speak a Slavic language. Oh, they could be from minority groups in those countries, you racist. What? And then you turn around and say, oh, okay, just say they are. They're all military-aged men. Oh. But what is a woman? Can you define a woman? Fucking hell. You see how they stitch it all together? Absolute destruction of Western consciousness by every possible means. If they wipe the slate clean by telling you there's no such thing as a gender, there's no such thing as a person who's of a particular ethnic background, we're all the same mush. We're all the same globalist nonsense. We're all bots. We're all units, or all carbon units, then you can't use the logical arguments against them, because they've shifted the narrative into the world of pure gaslighting. And I'll give you an example. Today they had the hearing in Sligo of that Muslim guy who beheaded two gay men after picking them up on, I think it was Grindr or one of those apps, and nearly killed another, but he beheaded his dog. And apparently their genitals were cut off and were placed in their mouths, and their heads were beheaded and put onto their bodies for the police to find them. That has all been scrubbed from the record. You would think that his name, from reading the court hearing today, that his name was Barry O'Brien. He was a white, red-headed, freckled Irish fella who who murdered people because he's a homophobic Irish white man. That's literally. There was no mention that he went to Turkey and was radicalized. There was no mention that he openly admitted it was a jihadist killing. None of that stuff. No, the first Sligo to go, woo, we all love each other. Let's protect ourselves from homophobes. It's all about creating amnesia. You see, it's all about creating an amnesic state. That's why you had like your man Hancock in England on "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me in the Jungle" where thing, and the same people that he destroyed their lives, they all thought he was great fun. There's an amnesia. There's something about the world we live in, whether it's social media flicking by on a phone screen, has created amnesia. A huge part of our thing to re-establish civilizations. And notice how I said civilizations, plural, not civilization. I'm talking about African civilization, European civilization, North American civilization, Central American civilization, Latin American civilization, Asian subcontinent, South Asian continent civilization, Far Eastern civilization, Micronesian civilization. All of them, re-establish them as the true diversity, is to actually fight this weaponized amnesia that they use against people. Because you see, they don't have, like I saw this thing, some other pop-up NGOs like Ballymun for All or some shit like that, to try and fight the racist. And I read like something from the 1970s. It was like I couldn't believe it. It was comical. It was ridiculous. But we have to make sure that people don't forget. In Sligo, they've already forgotten that there was a jihadist that Sligo is now world famous for only one. Well, Yeats, the poet, but now it'd be two guys beheaded by a jihadist. And instead of them being disgusted by it and saying what was done, what was a shameful thing to bring upon our community, they wave rainbow flags and that's all. That's what they do. But that will change. That will change. I'm hearing more and more. You see, Ireland is always the last to come round to sense. You see, we're all super woke now, where woke was really at its peak 15 years ago in places like Scandinavia and Canada and North America. We're way behind the times. Already in places like the USA, there's a change. Now, they've used the labels to keep their scams going, right? So I'm a left winger, I'm a right winger, this kind of thing. Well, I'm an anarchist in the middle. I don't like the right because they're greedy and selfish, and I don't like the left wing because they're low intelligence and controlling. But so I'm an anarchist. And the only really political slant I'd have time for are probably libertarian. But even then, I've got to think about that. I don't really care about it either. But anyway, so there's people now saying, I'm not conservative, but I get where Enoch Burke is coming from. Whoa. I've heard that a few times. Where in the past they'd say stuff, I know people who are died in the wood lefties who were saying, I kind of understand what Enoch Burke is about. You can't be having kids, little spoiled brats pretending they're girls because they're yummy mummies and cook fathers. Can't put the foot down and be like proper parents. Can't have that. And when they find out about, you see what's happened is, I hate the fact that Enoch Burke constantly attacks pagans. It really upsets me. But I'm not a fanatic. I'm not a dogmatist. I'm not a polemic. I will try to meet people in the middle ground who I feel have something to offer. It's because of Enoch Burke's stance that now many Irish people have found out that they're doing things like teaching kids about 5-year-olds about anal sex. And basically it's got to the stage where it seems like every single school teacher in Ireland except Enoch Burke is a paedophile or a latent paedophile or into grooming children into a sexualized state. They're obsessed with genitalia and sexualization of children. I mean, I hate to say that, but it just seems that way. Now, Burke, through his stance, has shined a light on all this. And now people are going, well, I don't like Burke's religion. I wouldn't be into any of that shit. But, he does have a point about the sexualization of children in school being the primary driver of their education. And that's worth its weight in fucking diamonds and gold. Now, again, I wish you would lay off on us pagans. Don't be confusing us all with like the cat lady pagans archetypes that who say things like the Morrigan represents diversity, and the Morrigan personally oversaw 2 genocides of foreigners trying to come into Ireland. But that's another side to it. But you know, don't be picked with. Some of us are ma- many pagans who are not in who are not you know the, the so-called Christian family values came from pagan. If you read about the life of pagan Romans and the work of Pliny and the work of Marcus Aurelius, all they talk about is the sanctity of the family and a parent's thing to protect their children from exploitation. That all came from the old classical world. Don't kid yourself that all arrived as soon as this like Jewish guy was like hammered to a fucking stick. That so just calm down on that shit, okay? Pick on the real ones. We have no power. Pagans have no power in this world. Not in Ireland. We're the most powerless people in the world. So don't be acting like we're the ones causing it. They're atheists. The ones they call themselves Christians or Catholics or Protestants, whatever. They're atheists. They're scientific materialist atheists. They're not anything else. And that's why, and that's happening all over the world. There's people looking at America, living in America, or looking at Florida and going, "That guy's right, DeSantis, he's right. The war on woke, it's gone too fucking far." And a big part of that was the COVID thing. The COVID thing, they put like your man Jimmy Kimmel dancing for his paymasters, like the performing clown, the performing seal. They've lost the control now. They've lost it because they overplayed the COVID thing by trying to make it into a religion, and they played on a small percentage of society who are hypochondriacs or neurotics, and try to make it this central aspect of Western civilization. It didn't work. It didn't work. And the only ones that are still out there, the few handful of neurotics that still think we need lockdowns and mask mandates and all this stuff, that's all gone. And another part of it too is that the died suddenly. That's a huge part of it as well. I don't think they expected this. I thought they'd peter out. It would be more sort of measured over a longer period of time and not be instantaneous, and that led to this so quickly where the average moron who watches like Dancing with the Stars is even noticing it. So there's lots to be positive of. Lots. Their old tricks are not working. Now, I know fundamentally behind it, it's all to do with a collapse of the Western banking system. And the whole COVID thing was a way of generating the economy for another couple of years based on a gigantic sales pitch for 4 companies, and it would also fed into things like 4 pharmaceutical companies, which also fed into Amazon and things like that, and, online shopping. But it was an artificial way to extend a dying economy. And this is what this is really all about. Now, I heard John Waters was on with James Collins the other day. Very good interview. And John and James were saying that they're going to come for the property next, because that's really the only receipts that can be collected on this debt crash. That's very true. That's. But at the same time, too, they won't get away with it. They don't have enough troops in the world. They don't have enough ways of doing it. They haven't convinced enough young people yet. They're at least using the current methodology and success mode. They're still at least 20 years from being able to pull that one off. And I'll tell you why, because the COVID thing collapsed, and that's why Jimmy Kimmel was on going, "I have variant number XYZ." That's why he was doing that. That was like, anyone I've known people who are dying and who had stage 4 cancer, and they say to me, "Oh, I just booked a holiday in the Bahamas." And you don't say nothing, but you think, "They booked a holiday in the fucking Bahamas. They're practically dead. They're practically in a hospice." And say, I want to go there, yeah. And they booked the hotel, and the flights and everything. They're dead 2 days later. It's that denial thing. It's a kind of and you'll see that too. A lot of people have mental breakdowns. They do things like walk naked in the streets, do all kinds of things. Start 4 o'clock in the morning, taking out the cans of paint and start painting their house. That kind of thing. They start acting very strange. They'll go up on the ones who never went to karaoke night, and they'll go up on stage and they'll be screaming into the mic like some Elvis song, and people are going, "Well, what's wrong with him?" That's what the Jimmy Kimmel thing represented of the globalist establishment, the woke Soros open society. Is that was mental? That was mental, psychic collapse. Don't think it was anything else. And it was like one of those. It was a real "the emperor has no clothes" moment, and people went, "Oh, that's weird." That's what happened. It was a collective that, and that's mental illness. That was Jimmy Kimmel's basically being the avatar for the globalists imploding right now. It's not going good for them. They've made many mistakes, as psychopaths always do, and you see it everywhere now. They can't use their old techniques of calling people names and using slurs or invoking, expertise. What do you know about it? You're not a scientist. What do you know about? You're not a doctor. This kind of thing doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work anymore. The days of the gorgeous Brian Cox is over. Is over. And if you go to so many Brian Cox videos, the comments are switched off. Why? Because people are saying, look at this fucking cunt." That's what they're saying. That's what's going on. And you see it everywhere. So be hopeful, my friends. There's definitely been a sea change in the last couple of days. You're going to see more and more people openly saying, "Shut the fuck up." And it's also late that we have to, the thing is that we have to always remind them. See, they've already forgotten about the lockdowns, but we always have to remember them, bring up the photographs of the absurdness and mental illness of it. The craziest things, the craziest photographs of things they did, like, all that shit. You have to keep reminding people that, in Ireland it'll always be that €9 meal. Remember when you could buy a meal for €9 that could protect you from a virus? And that we should never let that stuff go, never. And that's the whole. See, COVID became a kind of mortar in a wall of bricks, and in that wall of bricks, one brick is made up of the open borders thing, another brick is made up of the transhumanist thing, another brick is made up of the gender identity politics things, and COVID became the mortar to glue all that stuff together in a wall that was on the other side of the wall was the banksters, was the scam artists, was the globalists, and that wall, that mortar of COVID had to stay. That mortar of COVID had to remain integrated and strong. Oh, guess what? It's crumbling away faster than a house in Donegal. Keep fighting that fight, folks. Humanus vitae, sanguine gnosis.